Hey, let's do it for the content. Megaran. Let's go. Let's get it. Dick Kick City. It gets gritty when Megaran come through. The kid gets busy. Work yourself into a shoot, but you know it's legit. Like what you like, just don't be a dick. Hey, wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah. What's that set? Maybe you should bottle it. Drink it and spray it on. Get Claude to model it. 8 years in, can't look back. Who else can make the law sweatsuits look whack? Wrestling with regret. Let's get it. Yeah.
You've no doubt heard the saying, wrestling is a male soap opera. It's been called that by its biggest fans and its biggest detractors. The comparison has stuck for decades though, because quite frankly, the similarities are all too real. The classic battles between good and evil, the wafer-thin acting, the low-hanging storyline fruit, the scandals, the mystery, the intrigue. Some of wrestling's most memorable storylines feel as though they are plucked from the scripts of your grandma's favorite stories. And this week, I'm gonna rank them. So turn off the vacuum and send the kids to play outside, because I'm gonna give you my picks for the top 8 soap opera storylines in wrestling. Or am I? Yes, I am. Number 8. I'm Your Poppy. As a collective third of the SmackDown 6, Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio had crossed paths multiple times since coming to WWE, but fans who were clamoring for a one-on-one feud rivaling that of 1997 wouldn't see it until 2005. First working as a tag team, the two beat the Bashams for the tag titles at No Way Out, but with no challengers lined up for WrestleMania, Eddie and Rey just wrestled each other instead. The match was fine, but everything is just fine when you compare it to their classic at Halloween Havoc. Maybe things could have been different if Rey didn't have to fix his mask every 10 seconds. Rey winning that match proved to be the crack in their foundation. Later that month, they lost the titles to a debuting Eminem, and Eddie turned on Rey soon after. Threatening to reveal a dark secret, Eddie put that secret on the line when he wrestled Rey at the Great American Bash. He ended up losing, so that should mean the story's over, right?
I lie!
Oh, Eddie, oh, you trickster, you got us again. Oh, you scamp! Surprise, Eddie is the kayfabe father of Rey's son, Dominic. According to the storyline, Eddie had a kid with another woman while at his lowest point of his life, which is true, and the Mysterios took the child in as their own, which was not true. I mean, if you want an idea of just how illogical this whole storyline was from the beginning, just look at Dominic's face. You're gonna look at that punim and tell me he isn't a Mysterio? My favorite part of the angle is when Eddie brought the social worker in to take Dom away from Rey because he wanted what was best for the child. But like, isn't she the least bit suspicious of Eddie's intentions when she hears his theme song? One thing leads to another, and now the custody battle will be determined, how else, in a ladder match at SummerSlam. If only all legal proceedings were this simple. The match was at once beautiful and frightening, awe-inspiring and hard to watch. When things looked good, they were great, but when things went wrong, God, no wonder Rey's had all those surgeries in his left knee. Despite Vicky Guerrero missing her cue, causing Eddie to openly inquire as to her whereabouts, the match still ended the right way, with Rey grabbing the custody papers and standing tall with his son, who would grow up to stand much taller. Number 7. Dawn Marie and Al Wilson. The rise of the aforementioned SmackDown 6 was one of the defining characteristics of Paul Heyman's run of the show from mid-2002 to early 2003. But aside from booking matches that regularly tore the house down, another hallmark was this, one of the raunchiest angles WWE has ever done, especially in a post-Attitude Era world. It all began when Tori Wilson kept beating Dawn Marie in a variety of hot ladies wear skimpy outfits matches each week. Perhaps out of revenge, Dawn began making moves on Tori's real-life father, Al Wilson, who had been attending the shows lately. It wasn't long before those two lovebirds were making out in the shower, fully clothed, like you do if you're an old man apparently. The awkwardness was palpable as poor Al couldn't act his way out of a paper bag he had brought with him into the shower, leading to some of the most cringeworthy moments of the Ruthless Aggression era. Making things all the more bizarre was Taz and Michael Cole's commentary as the two couldn't stop corpsing and losing their shit over how bad it all was.
I will kill myself, swear to God.
But the real twist came when Dawn admitted to Tori it was all an elaborate plan for her to sleep with Tori herself. Now Dawn, if you really want to get to know her better, there are easier ways to go about it than ruining a perfectly good family dynamic. Perhaps chatting over coffee. Dawn promised to call the wedding off in exchange for a night of HLA, to which Tori reluctantly agreed, but then what did Dawn up and do?
I lie!
"Oh, Dawn, you sure got us. Oh, you sneaky sneak." Dawn even promised to show a tape with a whole hotel room romp at the Armageddon pay-per-view, only for it to be stopped when old Al intervened, cementing him as SmackDown's biggest heel at the time. Then the wedding happened, and aside from Al getting stripped down to his underwear for some reason, the whole thing went off without a hitch. Pretty sure that wouldn't happen at a wrestling wedding again until just this year. Then Al Wilson got boinked to death during the honeymoon. Ratings gold! Though Al's funeral did not include necrophilia, we did see the casket get knocked over, so it's a different kind of classlessness. But even that's different than what former writer Dave Lagana had said was originally pitched, that Al would have just sat up from the casket to tell Tori she was a disappointment before leaving the funeral home and getting hit by a bus. Gotta admit, I think I would have appreciated that twist. The blow-off between the two ladies took place at the Royal Rumble in a match that went less than 4 minutes and had 0 stakes, not even who got to keep the estate. Then it was soon forgotten about. Shortly after the feud ended, Paul Heyman was removed as head writer of SmackDown, which means by that point the blood must have rushed back to Vince's head. Number 6. Mickie loves Trish. As we can see in this countdown, WWE loves to go there every once in a while with girl-on-girl content. But no, dude, this is like a different kind of lesbian angle. This one's got depth to it. It started innocently enough when newcomer Mickie James debuted on an October 2005 episode of Raw as an enthusiastic Stratus fan. But over time, things went all single white female on the women's champion. From dressing up like her idol to unwanted kisses and desperate expressions of love, Mickie was showing a darker side of fandom, finally reaching a boiling point when she attacked Stratus on an episode of Saturday Night's Main Event. Things got intense as Mania season approached, with James kidnapping Ashley Massaro and even taking a page from DDP's book with some kinda shrine in honor of Trish. The two had a great match for the championship at WrestleMania 22, even though most remember it for Mickie's impromptu finger-licking display just before the finish where she beat Trish for the title. That salacious moment was too much for Vince, who scolded James after the match and had that part of it scrubbed from future airings. Hey, we can imply all we want, but we can't just out and out say it. I mean, think of what the sponsors would do. The storyline sputtered out when Trish hurt her shoulder in a rematch. It was unfortunate because for the most part, it was honestly one of the better angles WWE had done in years. Rumor has it was a storyline that Vince wanted to do with Sable and Terry Power years earlier, but it never fully got off the ground because Sable was allegedly uncomfortable with it. I think it's safe to say these ladies handled it better than it would have been in 1999. Number 5. Fake pregnancies. Whether they're issues of paternity like in the Ray and Eddie entry, or pregnancy like in this one, they all feel like common soap opera tropes, so it makes sense they'd also find a place in wrestling. There haven't exactly been a ton of examples in this medium, but enough to say, that's enough. Probably the earliest one I can recall is when Terry Runnels claimed that she was pregnant, got rejected by both Val Venus and Goldust, then formed PMS with Jacqueline. Pretty straightforward. They got their claws into D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry. And on the same episode of Raw where Mankind won his first WWF Championship, fans also watched Terry take a fall and seemingly miscarry. Still seems like a good opportunity for a cheeky shot, right? D'Lo felt terrible about the ordeal and promised to do Terry's bidding to make it right. After weeks of humiliation, the boys discovered that Terry had never been pregnant in the first place, which led to the blow-off of nothing. Man, we forget how good we had it back then. David Flair and Stacy Keibler had their own soap opera storyline in WCW, first when David dumped his ex-girl Daphne to be with Miss Hancock. At New Blood Rising during Stacy's infamous ROTC match against Major Guns, ROTC standing for Rip Off the Camouflage, the Keebs suddenly got an upset tum-tum, which became, you guessed it, a miscarriage scare. Stacy would be alright, but the pregnancy revelation caused young David to immediately propose to make it right. Dave may not have come close to his old man's record for world titles, but he was getting an early start on divorces. But at the wedding, Hancock revealed to her fiancé that he was not the father of the baby. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. How hard is it to book Maury Povich for one of these things? So who was the father-to-be? Ric Flair? Buff Bagwell? Who knows? Let's have Mike Tenay slut-shame Stacy on national television.
Stacy, we've seen you on WCW TV, dressed in the shortest miniskirt that I've ever seen. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm a married man and that I have some morals, I probably would have taken a shot.
After a few more weeks of this nonsense, both Hancock and Flair disappeared from TV. Stacy came back to Nitro several months later pushing a giant pram, revealing it was all a ruse and that Shawn Stasiak was her baby. Still a better outcome than the intended ultimate reveal of Vince Russo as the baby daddy. Vinny Roo? More like Vinny Ew. Stephanie McMahon claimed to be preggers as part of her on-air feud with Triple H that was revealed to be a lie. Then there was Claire Lynch in Impact, who pretended to be AJ Styles' recovering addict baby mama until she quit the company. Lana revealed she was pregnant in her breakup feud with Rusev, but that fib didn't even last until the end of the segment. And we can't forget the paternity angles. At the time, Vince McMahon thought he was Hornswoggle's father, which led to lots of bad parenting moments, until JBL revealed it was actually Finlay. And then, of course, there's our next guy. Number 4. Kane. Just Kane. While most of the storylines we've covered so far could fit perfectly in a show like Days of Our Lives or All My Children, Kane's whole vibe belongs more in a show like Passions. I mean, for starters, he freaking debuted as the vengeful, long-lost brother of The Undertaker, revealed to be the son of a clandestine affair between Paul Bearer and Kane and Taker's mother, only to be betrayed and discarded by Paul and Taker when his usefulness had expired. He's been the humanized buddy of X-Pac, who opened his heart to the feminine charms of Tori, only for both to turn on Kane, embrace each other, and mock him openly on national television. We've seen him mournfully confess to the unfortunate accidental death of his girlfriend Katie Vick, which ended up retconning a lot of Kane's backstory, but we dealt with it, and in some ways, many of us still are. Kane's been unmasked, revealing not horrific burns as we've been led to believe, but the worst case of body dysmorphia since Michael Jackson, sending him on a path of destruction and testicular electrocution. And then there was the whole storyline with Leta and the unwanted baby. That sure was something, and we haven't even talked about the time he had an evil twin. Can't get much more soapy than that. For his time, Kane was a dream come true for WWE creative. Hard to believe something as one-dimensional as his original character was able to pull off such a wide variety of roles in the end. He's even had a storyline built around hugs. That's range, folks. Number 3, the Sandman-Raven feud. Our old friend Paul Heyman's back on the list with quite possibly one of his most successful angles as the head of ECW. The highly charged rivalry started benignly enough, a long-running feud over the world title between Raven and the Sandman. Raven tried to make it personal by bringing Sandman's ex-wife Lori into the mix, which our hero couldn't have cared less about.
But if Raven wants to get under the skin of the Sandman, he's gonna have to do a whole lot better than that.
But then the man once known as Johnny Polo upped the ante when Tyler, Sandman's 7-year-old son, was caught under Raven's spell.
Daddy, you're drunk. Help! I worship Raven.
The fight for little Ty-Ty's freedom was on. Sandman got a measure of revenge by regaining the title, albeit from Stevie Richards, who defended the belt in place of Raven. So where was our villain? Why, going on a European vacation with Lori, the rat bastard. As if the angle wasn't wild enough, this is the same feud that saw the infamous crucifixion of old Sandy, the same incident that Kurt Angle was there in person for and threatened to sue the company over if they used his image in any way. A way to almost alter the course of wrestling history forever, guys. As time went on, Raven's rampant assholism and insistence on playing the same Pearl Jam record over and over caused his new family to splinter. First the BWO, and finally Lori and Tyler. At CyberSlam 97, Tyler finally broke free from Raven's brainwashing for an emotional reunion with his father.
The Sandman has been brought to the ring by his son Tyler!
This angle was unlike anything seen before in wrestling. Now, family members had been utilized in angles before this to some degree, but almost never covering dark themes like substance abuse and grooming. It's one of the best examples of a baddie using psychological warfare in a wrestling storyline, and it's all the better for ending on a happy note. Number 2, the Matt Hardy Leta Edge debacle. We've seen a love triangle or two in this countdown, but none as emotionally charged as this one. It's art imitating life to the extreme. No pun intended. In 2005, Matt Hardy discovered that his girlfriend Leta had cheated on him with best friend Edge while he was out with an injury. Matt's very public outcry led to him being fired by WWE, as well as some drastic alterations to more than one storyline in the aftermath. Fans were so vocal about what Edge and Leta had done that the company had no choice but to put the two together as an on-screen couple, with Kane briefly standing in for Matt Hardy. See, I told you he could play any role. Eventually, WWE could no longer ignore the deafening Matt Hardy chants every time Leta and the Rated R Superstar appeared, so they rehired the angelic Diablo. This is always a tricky one to talk about because on the one hand, it's a storyline tailor-made for wrestling. If they didn't screw it up by embarrassing Matt almost every step of the way before shipping him off to SmackDown, it could have been really interesting. That said, it must have been hell for the performers to have their dirty laundry being used in a storyline like this. Whether it was right to turn their scandal into an angle or not, it proved to be a very pivotal one for all three performers. Matt's public sympathy campaign after his firing is a great example of early viral marketing as wrestling entered a more digital age. as we've seen in more recent years, he's continued to use those self-promotional skills to great success. Edge became the hottest heel in the company after the angle, and over time would build a legendary career that continues to this day. But on the flip side, nobody suffered more from the storyline than Leta, who almost quit the company over the treatment she was getting from rabid fans despite expressing remorse over what had happened, and it can be argued that her career was never the same afterward. Before I reveal the #1 entrant, my honorable mention for this countdown has to be the saga between Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. I already talked about this in detail in my countdown about wrestler-manager pairings, so I won't repeat myself with the exposition, but I will reiterate that it's definitely a fantastic love story with a well-executed beginning, middle, and ending. Easily the best of its kind WWE has ever done. Well, that and Perry Saturn and Moppy. And my pick for the #1 soap opera storyline in wrestling is the McMahon family drama. It's been to the fans' alternating delight and dismay that the McMahons have dominated WWE programming for the better part of the last 2 decades. But to that I say, why not? The McMahons are every great TV family wrapped into one. Over the years, Vince, Linda, Shane, and Stephanie conspired with and against each other like the Sopranos. They constantly battled for control of the family empire like the Ewings, and they protected each other from the harsh realities of the outside world like the Waltons. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. By early '99, Shane McMahon had become an established presence on TV and was an on-again, off-again partner with Papa Vince. But the moment a debuting Stephanie was introduced as the target of Ministry Undertaker's desire, the floodgates were opened. We've seen a kidnapping and a dark wedding, a higher and/or Hauer power, a fight with Steve Austin for control of the company, Stephanie marrying Triple H, WrestleMania 2000, Vince drugging his wife so he could have an affair with Trish Stratus, the family's role in the Invasion storyline, Vince beating the shit out of his own daughter on pay-per-view, Vince's feud with Donald Trump, Vince's feud with God, Vince blowing up in a limousine, Vince and Hornswoggle, The Authority, Shane McMahon's 2016 return, not to mention a ton of other angles I'm probably forgetting. It seems for now that fans are finally free of the constant push and pull of the McMahon family soap opera, but perhaps we shouldn't rest easy. After all, there is another generation of McMahons who will get old enough to be on TV someday, maybe a McMahon's 2.0? So what other soap opera storylines do you think deserve some love in this countdown? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.